If, like me, you've ever worked as a professional musician, then you'll no doubt remember your first professional appointment. Mine was at the age of 16 at a fairly grand church in Salisbury, just before I went off to Oxford. And I remember the vicar being rather sceptical of my youthful looks and inexperience because he said to me, "We don't want any drums or electric guitars here. None of that rubbish." I was inclined to agree with him. It seems rather disrespectful to have electricity surging through the music making in that context. Except for the fact that I wouldn't have been able to see him if it weren't for the electric lighting, hear him if it weren't for the microphone, and he wouldn't be able to hear my playing if it weren't for the electric blower that powered the pipe organ. Johann Sebastian Bach didn't write a single piece of music for the 20th century English church organ. And I wonder what he would have made of the fact that the most famous recording of his Goldberg variations was made on a Steinway piano. It seems like however hard we try to be historically sensitive, we fail miserably every single time. And what's more, I grew up on a diet of Pink Floyd and Dire Straits, and to be perfectly honest, I quite like the sound of the electric guitar. Billy makes a great picnic, but he's also an excellent guitar player, and that's why I've brought him here to one of my favourite churches in the diocese. All Saints in Charlton was built in 1851, and it served its farming community for well over 100 years. But in the 1970s, church attendance began to fall, and questions were raised about the future of this building. The pews were taken out, and at some stage it faced closure altogether. That is until much more recently. There's still lots of work to do here, but this parish has been determined to keep their church open and used. As well as Sunday services, there are clubs and meetings held here, and because there's hardly any furniture, the acoustic is superb. In fact, for two brothers, it offers something unique and priceless: creative freedom. the Kyries from the Mass of the Angels, with music which was probably composed in the 15th or 16th century. Ideally, that melody would be sung by a human voice, which is of course the most expressive musical instrument, but in the absence of that, I must admit the electric guitar does a pretty good job. Billy is using an electric bow, which turns it into a voice or a violin or a cello or even a flute. It vibrates the strings of the guitar without you having to touch them, so you can sustain notes as long as you want. It makes the instrument very expressive and sensitive. The Kyries are sung in Greek. They're the only part of the Mass not sung in Latin. And they are very ancient, but playing them on an electric guitar gives them a whole new flavour, doesn't it? And it's quite practical as well, because the organ then becomes the accompaniment. It doesn't have to do everything itself. And personally, as an organist, I would say that the organ is a difficult instrument to make expressive on its own. It's simply air pumping through pipes. Whereas other instruments, where a human has much more direct control over the sound, can be much more expressive. Let's turn to another very popular piece of music from that time. In fact, I refer to it as the biggest hit of 1596. Listen to this tune by John Dowland, played on the keyboard. Yes, a very haunting and sublime melody. But it's difficult to make it expressive, especially on the harpsichord, because all of those notes would come out at the same volume. And everything, melody, chords and bass, all have to be played with the fingers. It's very hard to play sensitively and emotionally and to bring that melody out on the keyboard alone. But it's completely transformed when you play that tune on a separate instrument like the electric guitar. biggest hit of 1596, John Dowland's song Flow My Tears, which was of course covered a few hundred years later by Sting. It sounds great using the electric guitar with an E-bow, extremely expressive. But now I'd like to return to All Saints Church in Charlton and moving onwards to the music of George Frederick Handel. This is a piece he composed in 1713 for the birthday of Queen Anne. Handel was a really interesting character. If you look at pictures of him, he's wearing that great wig. But about the time of this piece's composition, he looked something like this. He was born in the same year as Bach, only about 90 miles away, but they never actually met, even though they knew each other's music and were equally famous. This is a beautiful piece with melody and accompaniment. However, it adds something more. To me, the electric guitar and the organ work best together when there is an interplay between them. In other words, the guitar gets a tune, then the organ, then back to the guitar, and they start to weave around each other. And I've noticed that the open diapason on the organ really complements the sound of the guitar. This is a piece called Eternal Source of Light Divine. Eternal Source of Light Divine by George Frederick Handel. That is a piece of music which sounds refreshingly modern despite its age, composed way back in 1713. I want to draw your attention to something. The very opening of that piece, I actually adjusted the piece. I rewrote the ending. I'm sure it annoyed some of you who knew it. But it was so that you could hear the opening twice. And specifically the chord progression played on the church organ. Listen to how that piece started. Now, if you remove the tune and leave just the chords, did those chords sound familiar to you? Yes, because I would say that it's the most famous chord progression ever used in music. It's still famous now, we just can't get enough of it. I'm supposed to be talking about the electric guitar, but I've gone off on a tangent because those chords really sum up why we love music so much. Why it has a pleasurable effect on us. It's because of harmony. Or more specifically, the constant alternation between discord and harmony, just like life, really. Chord number 1, harmony. Chord number 2, discord. Chord number 3, harmony. And it's that constant alternation which makes us keep on listening to beautiful music. And great composers know how to handle, excuse the pun, those chords so that we enjoy what we're listening to. Bach also used those chords. And you know what? It doesn't end there. How about this? And this? We could go on and on with that same chord progression, and you can see how many composers throughout history have been inspired by their predecessors, but they've transformed the style working around those specific chords. It really ties in to the electric guitar theme, doesn't it? That sense of progression, but drawing on the music and the styles and the techniques of our forefathers. So, I'd like to end with yet one more piece of music which uses that very same chord progression. This is a piece composed in 1986. If you've enjoyed this video so far, there are 3 ways in which you could help me out. Number 1, which you can all do, is to click on the subscribe button, please. A few weeks ago I said that I have to ask you to subscribe because if I do, you subscribe. If I don't, you don't subscribe. And it's true, because on that particular video I gained 21,000 subscribers. So I was rather glad that I did ask. But subscribing doesn't cost a penny, but it keeps you up to date with all of my new videos. So whenever one of these films comes out to you, you'll be one of the first to see it. It's almost like a virtual newsletter. So just click on that subscribe button underneath the video. Thank you so much. The second thing you could do would be to watch this video again. It's my gift to you with all of the music. But the third, if you would be kind enough, is to leave a small donation to help me out. All of the content which I produce on these videos is put together by me alone. I'm supremely grateful for Billy's help. But aside from playing the guitar, all of the decision making and editing and research is carried out by me alone. And it always is. This is my 141st video, I believe, on YouTube, and it's been quite an ordeal producing all of these films for you. So if you look forward to these videos on a Sunday evening, you can leave a donation if you'd like to using my PayPal link. If you look underneath the video, you'll see the link there. Click on that and it takes you to the Salisbury Organist donations page. And from there you can leave a small donation if you'd like to. Thank you so much. It's really integral in me being able to continue to produce these videos. So, to our final and most emotional performance of the day. This is a piece composed by Ennio Morricone, Gabriel's Oboe. Thank you so much for watching, as always, and I'll see you next time. Cheerio.